Hello, this is Crow99, and this is episode 3 of my Kerbal Space Program series. So, today I thought I'd do another kind of minor mission, nothing big. I was considering going to the moon, but I really wanted to have, I don't know, I just didn't want to have to go there with my current tech level. I could go to the moon, but I didn't have a lot of time today, so I thought I'd just do a short, little, simple mission. This did end up taking me a good little while. The video right now, at this moment, is sped up 200 times. This is post commentary, by the way. And later on, when I get doing more meticulous stuff, it goes up 400 times. I'm sorry I didn't have a lot of time to edit the video, so there may be some boring things here and there that I missed when I did. But still. So you can see I named it Edge of Space. So I haven't explained the mission yet. So what I'm going to do is, I believe I've mentioned at some point that there's things called spheres of influence. So in the real world, gravity affects you at all times, but in this game, you have to be within the sphere of influence of something to be influenced by its gravity. So, if you're in the sphere of influence of carbon, you get a certain science result. If you're in the sphere of influence of the moon, you get another science result. If you're in the sphere of influence of the sun, you get different ones. So, what I plan to do is leave the sphere of influence of carbon, get a few science results, then fly right back in and land. So you can see I'm building this. I put that small engine in, and I like that engine because it's really efficient. It's the most efficient thing you get for a little while, I believe until you get the nuclear engine. There may be some other more efficient ones in between, but they're not quite as small and light as this one. However, then I remembered that I don't have solar panels yet. I haven't unlocked them in the tech tree. And of the 3 engines, liquid engines I currently have, that's the only one that doesn't produce electricity, so I kind of needed the other ones just because I need electricity. So what you can see I have right now is I'm currently building my transfer stage. Now the transfer stage will transport me from low carbon orbit into a trajectory to leave carbon, to escape from carbon, and that stage up there will allow me to get back in and then orbit and then lower my orbit into a capture orbit so that I'm within the atmosphere and can aerobrake. And here I'm building the transfer stage. Now, I can't really do what I like to do quite yet, and that's something called an space drive, which I won't explain now because it'll be better to explain if I can show it. So you can see here I have those liquid engines which I just will be using for the launcher, and then those solid rocket boosters. You can always afford to put solid rocket boosters on. They just really help with normal rockets for just that little extra boost, that little bit of extra delta V you need. So yeah, also about science, I don't have very much unlocked at this point. I only have the goo canisters, and that's it, I believe. Yeah, that's it. So the only science experiments I can do is the goo canister, EVA report, and crew report. Now, crew report and EVA report I can transmit back. You can't transmit back the goo reports. So you can see I'm just putting on these wings for stability. Now, I'm not sure if I've mentioned this. I think I have that there is a free demo of this game. I would suggest getting it if you like this, because it only has 25 items, but it's very interesting just to play around with, because it's fun just to play around with the mechanics, even if you don't have all these advanced things that are in the full game. There's only the carbon, the sun, and the moon, and very few types of rockets and such, but it's still fun to play with. So you can see, if you're watching the video still, that the rocket is kind of sagging under the acceleration from the solid rocket boosters. Now, that could be a problem. That's why you need to be kind of careful earlier on with your rockets, until you get struts, that is. I'm just going to check the audio for a second. I'll be right back. And I'm back, although in the video and the audio, there was probably no delay for you. So, I believe that, yes, the video right now is still only sped up 200 times. You can see there I was just working a bit on the staging. I didn't quite do perfect. I still have a mistake. If you look at the top, I have the parachutes can do different things in the coupler and the last stage. That's a mistake I'll fix later. I believe this is where we transfer over to the 4 times acceleration. If not now, then within the next few seconds or so. So there I go, I dropped the solid rocket boosters and I went into liquid. You'll notice I only have the ones around the edge burning. That is because I made them the same length as the center, and this way those ones will burn out first. And the center one can be more efficient because, as I've mentioned before, they are more efficient. You get more acceleration per amount of fuel in a lower density atmosphere, so if there's no air, it's more efficient. So yeah, we're definitely in 4 times acceleration at this point. In the video, that is, not in-game. You can see that I put Bob Kerbin in. I just kind of did that because I'm trying to save Jebediah Kerbin for the more kind of exploration-y. So if I were to go to the moon, I would use Jebediah. If I were to go to Duna or the Venus analog, or I forget the name of this, Eve, if I were to go to some other planet or something for the first time, I'd use Jebediah, but if I thought that for something this mundane, I'd just use Bob. So I'm orbiting here, dropping those stages before I get out of the atmosphere, which is good. Those will burn up. Well, they're not going to burn up in the atmosphere, but they will be destroyed on Kerbin. Burning up in the atmosphere isn't in the stock version of the game yet. I'm not quite sure if I've done any kind of tutorial for how to orbit in this yet. But if I haven't said anything about this, the reason I'm waiting for apparatus is that if it's more efficient, it's out of the atmosphere. And if you want to change an orbit, a circular orbit around a planet, you want to burn on the opposite side. So if you want to raise your lowest point to be equal to your highest point, you burn, or accelerate or whatever, at your highest point, you burn on the opposite side. And of course the low point is the periaps, the high point is the aperaps. So if you want to raise your periaps, which for me at this moment in the game is under the Earth's surface, you burn at the aperaps. And I burnt 30 seconds early because it's not extremely fast acceleration. And there you can see, when they turn around like that, by the way, that means that you have circularized. And yes, that is a real word. Circularizing is when you get into a circular orbit. Now I kind of stopped once I circularized because normally in this game, if you want to get somewhere, you stop, you wait for a transfer window, you burn at the perfect spot, but then I remembered that I could go in any direction at any time and get where I want to go. So that's what I did. And now I'm onto my transfer stage thing. And I noticed there that I did manage to get in orbit with the moon. Now, I at first thought of getting into orbit with the moon, but then I thought it'd just be easier just to burn in any way and get into solar space, I guess you could call it. Interplanetary space is what it's called. But then I realized I got an encounter with the moon, and I remember that you can get a lot of sounds from the moon, so I decided to just go ahead with that, take an extra orbit around. See, I'm just slowing down for it because I'm not sure if it's still in the game or if they fixed it, but a little while ago there was a little bit of a glitch. If you time accelerated across switching spheres of influence, the blue is the sphere of influence of Kerbin, or whatever I'm currently in, and then the yellow is the next sphere of influence I go into. So you can see I'm getting a lot of stuff and transmitting it back. EVA report and all that. A lot of stuff you can get around the moon. I highly suggest if you're new to science but don't have enough technology or enough skill in the game, go into orbit around the moon or Minimus. I suggest the moon just because it's easy, and do some experiments. Get a lot of stuff from it. So now you can see after I've done those and transmitted them, I decided not to circularize. Now of course the moon does have high orbit experiments and low orbit experiments, so I could have gotten more. If you get low enough, there's certain experiments for EVA and Crewport, I believe, will have certain biomes. Remember, Minimus, the moon, and Kerbin all have biomes, so you can get even more science from them. But because that was not the point of this mission, and I also wanted to save on fuel, which I was kind of worried about, although I shouldn't have been, I had enough, I decided to just go ahead and continue on the escape trajectory. And now see in a second what I mean about burning on the opposite side. Now, I wouldn't go to the apoapse and then start burning straight up. I could, and it would raise the apoapse, but it'd be a lot faster just to burn at the periapse, which I would get to first, and then I could just continue cruising on to the apoapse. There we go, there had a bit of trouble with an update on my orbit. So, I should have sped up this video a little bit faster. I didn't realize how tedious it was. And you can see that I'm using those, what's it called now? Nodes. Maneuver nodes. I'm using maneuver node to try to be very efficient about this. You can see I'm pulling down the amount of thrust to see how little I can get away with burning. And luckily the estimated burn time, as you can see in the bottom, is only 1 second, so I'm not even that high up. Now, a little trick for when you're doing this. Say you had a burn time of 1 minute. Start burning 30 seconds beforehand, because the maneuver node assumes that all the thrust will come at that one instant when you're at that point. That's not how it works, unless you have very strong engines, or so that you can get it all within 1 or 2 seconds. So if you have a longer time, like a minute, 5 minutes, you want to start burning halfway before, so that on average most of your thrust is around that and it's not after it. You also want to make sure not to burn too early. Remember that you want to stop burning, or you want to slow down your burn, kind of throttle it in before the end so you don't overburn too much too. So you might want to keep that into consideration as well, maybe burn a second or two before if it's long. But you don't need to worry about that with only 1 second or even up to 10 seconds or so, because it doesn't make much of a difference, especially on this smaller scale, just going between a planet and its moon. It might matter a bit more on interplanetary scales. So you can see there I'm moving toward my periapse, where I'm going to burn to raise my apoapse. And I'm time accelerating pretty fast. See, I'm not sure I don't believe I've explained the entire thing in the compass below. So there's of course the orbit that says how fast I'm orbiting Kerbin. There's my throttle on the left, that's how much the engines are upped. On the right is my acceleration. Right now I'm at 0 G's because I'm just free falling. And then that blue and red thing is my relation to the horizon. So the red is, if I'm facing straight up on the red, I'm facing straight towards whatever it is I'm currently orbiting, in this case Kerbin, the Earth analog. And blue is of course pointing straight away. And then north is pointing north, and so on. And then it's just based on whatever it is you're orbiting at that time. There's also several other camera views that show different things, like if I change it to surface, it'll show how fast I'm orbiting in relation to the surface and such. The thing about movement in real life and kind of in this game, in space that is it's all about your perspective or relation. So it's all relative. Are you moving 1,000 meters relative to the Earth? Because relative from something else moving right next to you 1,000 meters, you're not moving at all. It's all based on what you're basing it off of. That's like why you don't feel the Earth rotating, because you are rotating at that same speed, so it's as if the Earth is not rotating, even though you see the effects. Because it's orbiting in relation to the sun. By the way, you can see those meters there. Those are the new things added by the asteroid update. It's a few weeks old now, I think, but I haven't done anything with those. I haven't tried an asteroid redirect mission. So those are randomly generated around Kerbin, and that's so that they are more likely to get an encounter. Some of them will crash into it, many of them won't. And there's different sizes. There's class A, which is the smallest. I forget how high they get, but B, C, D, not sure if there's E. But they continually get bigger. They're pretty cool. You can actually get science results from them, I believe from EVA. I haven't tried it yet. I haven't tried at all. But they do seem like a pretty good source, because the way I understand the mechanics of asteroids is that every different one is a different science result, which is kind of nice. So you can see in the video now, I'm approaching my Kerbin escape. was it now, 1 day away, but I'm accelerating something like, I don't know, to 1,000 times speed or something, 10,000 times speed. Pretty fast. And 2 hours. Just keep on zooming in on it, just to be more and more precise. Oh, you can see in the upper right, that's another control that shows your current resources. So I have 18.3 electrical units. Monopropellant. Monopropellant isn't something I've gotten around to in this game playthrough yet, but it's something used for reaction control systems. So right now you may notice that I'm able to turn even though there's nothing really turning it, so that's torque that everything has just to make the game a bit easier. But in real life and in the game there's something called RCS, which is reaction control systems, and those are small little rockets that have multiple nozzles point in different directions that help you turn faster for larger ships, and they help a lot with docking because they let you move forward and backwards and such. They're also a little nice bit of extra rocket power if you really need it. So now you can see those things we're saying observations from high over the sun, because I am currently considered high over the sun. There it is. And yeah, it's just nice clothes. So I couldn't have just gone the next time I went interstellar, but for the next episode or two I plan on just going to the Minimus and the moon. So now the way to get back, once you do something like this, is you just burn straight towards Kerbin. There are other ways. You could just adjust your orbit to what you get an encounter, but the simplest way I found and the easiest to remember is to set it as a target. When you set something as a target, there's a little marker that appears on the compass. It's a pink circle, and it also shows your closest encounters. So you just burn towards that little pink circle. You can see it right there. It's currently near my retrograde, and that should bring your orbit close to it until you get an encounter. Once you're back in the sphere of influence, it's easy. You just burn retrograde, slow yourself down till you skim through the atmosphere, and you can aerobrake. Aerobraking, by the way, is a way of getting rid of delta V. Not getting rid of delta V, slowing yourself down by dipping into the atmosphere. There are other ways such as lithobraking, and I'm not sure what it's called when you just brake normally using fuel, but aerobraking saves a lot of fuel normally because you're not burning it all to slow yourself down. It's just the atmosphere is helping you. And if you're one way you could land onto something with atmosphere such as Kerbin in this game is just to set your parachutes to go and then just let your ship slowly aerobrake until it falls down into the atmosphere. So you can see now I am back into the Kerbin sphere of influence, but I am on an escape trajectory, but only just barely. So I'm gonna have to be burning some retrograde at various points to try to bring that in. This may get a bit tedious. At the 18-minute mark now. Sorry, I should have probably edited this more. This actually isn't the entire thing. There's a bit more that wouldn't even quite fit into the video, because it's 23 minutes as is, and it's even longer than I'd hoped. I'm sorry if I didn't quite edit this very well. I didn't have much time. Hopefully the next 2 episodes will be a bit better. You see, like I just said, I didn't get the entire recording from this little mission in, so I don't believe I show what I unlock and such. And when I finally land, this part is a bit tedious. I did more of it in 1 times acceleration than I probably should have. Okay, I'm back. So, yeah, again, sorry that this took so long. So yeah, I still just barely have an escape. Not sure why I didn't speed up yet. What? Whoopsie. It appears that I copied this video here by accident. Let me see how long that is. Yep. I'm sorry, give me 1 moment. Alright, so you may have been confused why I was just complaining about that, but see, I cut out the video, but because of the nature of this recording software, I'm unable to edit the audio. I'm using EasyVid, by the way. It doesn't give you many options, so that little thing's left in unless I want to delete the last 15 minutes of audio recording as well. So, yeah, finally got into a lower orbit. I did complete this mission, but this episode is almost over. Again, sorry for that little discrepancy at the end. Oh, here you see the thing I mentioned earlier about my staging. I fixed the parachutes, and I'm still burning retrograde. So, it's been Crow99. I'll be finishing this in the next episode and going to the moon for the first time, or Minos, one or the other. Hope you enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe if you liked the video. And thank you for watching.